Bari Weiss is the editor-in-chief of CBS News and 60 Minutes, and the legacy media has much to lose if she keeps that job. That's why they're lobbying every single attack they can. It's a mutiny at Paramount Skydance as they try to dislodge one lead of a network news division that could cause all kinds of troubles for them in next year's midterms. Hello folks, welcome back to the channel that helps you learn what's really going on in the hallowed halls of Hollyweird. And yes, indeed, inside the corporations that not only own entertainment, but news as well. Today, we're talking about something that may even affect the Warner Brothers sale. Hang on to your hats, folks. We've got the stories. We know where it's at. Click the like button, drop a comment down below. And yes, the time is right to hit the hype. And here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, there be a mutiny in the sea. In the CBS, that is. What do we got here out of the Hill? Well, the Hill is messing things up. Oh, it's moved my thing. You know what? We'll just do it here. I'll come back to the Hill in just a second. It's moved my article. Folks, take a look at this. We've got out of the Twitter, also known as Isabella Simonetti, says, new, see the memo Bari Weiss sent to some 60 Minute staff on Sunday. Now, what is this about? It's about an article that they wanted to be run on 60 Minutes. The authors there wanted to have this story on 60 Minutes, but it has not gone the way that they expected because Bari Weiss stepped in and said, no, we're not going to cover it that way. What are we talking about? We'll come back to what Bari Weiss had to say, but here it is out of CNN. I have to adjust to get that clip the right way because, well, the Hill didn't have what we needed and wasn't playing nice with us. But Brian Stelter, in a surprise, a shocker, is playing nice with us. It says, 60-minute story shelved by Bari Weiss, streamed in Canada and instantly spread across the web. Now, the story here is that Bari Weiss looked over this thing that's on 60 Minutes, and Bari Weiss is the head of CBS News now, under the tutelage, under the leadership of the Ellisons, who run Paramount Skydance and want to buy Warner Brothers. And Bari Weiss looked at this segment that was going to air on 60 Minutes and said, this is not a fairly produced segment. This is biased, and we're not going to run it right now. Somebody decided, we're going to ignore you, and we're going to actually run it in Canada, and then they spread it everywhere. Now, why would they run it in Canada, ladies and gentlemen? Why would that happen? Well, it might be more difficult to take action across the border. That's my suspicion here. CBS News editor-in-chief Bari Weiss decided to shelve a planned 60-minute story titled Inside CCOT. It's not a pleasant place, I'll tell you. Created an uproar inside CBS, but the report has reached a worldwide audience anyway. On Monday, some Canadian viewers noticed that the pre-planned 60 Minutes episode was published on a streaming platform owned by Global TV, the network that has the rights to 60 Minutes in Canada. The pre-planned episode led with correspondent Sharon Alfonsi's story, the one that Weiss stopped from airing in the U.S. because she said it was not ready. Now, Weiss did not run the story, and some perceive it to be very negative against the Trump administration. What happened? Folks, remember, the individuals inside 60 Minutes, the Scott Paley Peeleys of the world, they tried to stop the Ellisons, who are rather centrist, from ever buying CBS and getting hold of Paramount and owning 60 Minutes. Now, I believe sabotage is happening from the inside. Let's take a look at what Bari Weiss had actually said, because right now there are calls everywhere inside the very far left media saying she needs to step down, she needs to step aside, she's lost all control, yada, 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 yada. But here's what this is really about. I'm going to read through why Bari Weiss said that this should not be on the air. And again, guess what? This is an internal memo that they've leaked because everybody at 60 Minutes is out to get Bari Weiss because they see the time is right now to dislodge her and try to move the news segment, the news division, back to where it needs to be. The question is, are they going to pull an Elon? Will the Ellisons have the gumption now to say, you know what, we put this lady in charge. Her job is to make this news division nonpartisan, more fair, less biased. And if you try us, we're going to kick all of you out. Will they pull an Elon when he went into Twitter? Will they do it? Or are they going to reign supreme as they wish to do? Here's what she said. This is her internal memo that's been leaked out. Again, mutiny. I'm writing with specific guidance on what I'd like for us to do to advance the CCOT story. In other words, we're going to get it out there, but there need to be some changes. I'm the editor-in-chief. She says, I know you'd all like to see this run as soon as possible. I feel the same way. But if we run the piece as is, we'd be doing our viewers a disservice. Last month, many outlets, most notably the New York Times, exposed the horrific conditions. Okay? says, at present, we do not present the administration's argument for why it sent 252 Venezuelans to CCOT. Okay? She goes on to say, the data we present paints an incongruent picture. Of the 252 Venezuelans sent to CCOT, we say nearly half have no criminal histories. In other words, more than half do have criminal histories. We should spend a beat explaining this. We then say that only 8 of the 252 have been sentenced in America for violent offenses. But what about charged? My point is that we should include as much as we can possibly know and understand about these individuals. She goes on to say, Secretary Noam's trip to CCOT. We report that she took pictures and video there, not TDA members, with no comment from her or her staff about what the goal of that trip was or what she saw, or if that trip was, or if that she had concerns about the treatment of detainees, etc. She says, we need to do a better job of explaining the legal rationale by which the administration detained and deported these 252 Venezuelans. It's not as simple as Trump invoking the Alien Enemies Act and being able to deport them immediately. And that isn't the administration's argument. She says, my general view here is that we do our viewers the best service by presenting them with the full context they need to assess the story. In other words, I believe we need to do more reporting here. I am eager and available to help. I tracked down cell numbers for Homan and Miller, top government officials on this thing, and sent those along. Please let me know how I can support you. In other words, what did Bari Weiss want, guys? Bari Weiss looked at this very divisive, hyper-biased segment from 60 Minutes and said, this needs to cook about another week. I want you to call these people and ask them why they're doing what they're doing, and I want you to address this concern I have that we may have misled in regards to criminality. And how did they respond? They responded by airing the segment anyway in Canada and then spreading it all over the world. They responded by leaking the internal memo. They responded by, you've got 60 Minutes correspondents now calling for her to resign in the mainstream anonymously. This has turned into a fury at Bari Weiss for daring to have the audacity to question whether or not the news is being covered objectively. Lauren, I start with you. Lauren, Bari Weiss, whatever you think of her, she's not conservative. She's just trying to do her best, I believe, to be fair and balanced. And this is the first test. What do the Ellisons do as this story that's definitely not the A story, it's not the lead story, it's not the B story, it's just a story that she said, give it another week or two, let's work on ironing this out. And they've come out, knives out for Bari Weiss. Will the Ellisons back her up? What do you think the play is here, Lauren? Do her underlings actually believe they can dislodge her?
They may believe that they can ruffle some feathers, but the first step is an internal investigation. It should not be difficult to discover where and how that video footage was uploaded. They should be able to figure out who disseminated it and make an example pretty quickly. And you keep doing that until you get your employees in line. They obviously did this to try and circumvent her attempt to get them to do additional research and reporting to get the version of the story that they wanted out there. That's not their job. Their job is to produce the story, put it together, submit that, and then the editors make a decision. And the editor made a decision and they defied it. That, I think, is what needs to be done here, is just do an investigation and suspend whoever was involved in going around their editorial board.
I'm going to read this from the New York Times. It's behind a paywall. I'm not going to read the part that's behind the paywall. I'll just read the headline. It says, from the New York Times, turmoil at CBS News after Bari Weiss pulls a 60-minute segment. Several veteran correspondents questioned how Ms. Weiss, the new CBS News editor-in-chief, had handled the segment after she defended her decision on a call with the newsroom. Jonas, this thing's leaking more than Swiss cheese. That is intended, I believe. They want to flush out Bari Weiss. For some reason, at this point, they see a weakness. And the question is, will the Ellisons back her up? Because they all know, listen, this is about to get really tough on ABC and NBC News as they go into the midterm season. Because if CBS is there reporting the news in a more objective way, it puts pressure on them to do the same thing. And these journos can't stand that. They've got to take her out, and they need to take her out in the next month or two. So I think that's what we're up to, Jonas. I think that they need to dislodge her by March, because that's when the midterm stuff's going to start heating up and into the summer. They've got to dislodge her. I don't think they can. What say you, though? What's the play here?
With Bari Weiss, I look at the situation here, and the number of people that I've had discussions with over the years that are aiming towards something other than when they're trying to make an argument and you don't understand why they're so stuck on one point that doesn't have anything to do with the actual thing they're trying to accomplish. I think that this is basically narcissism on the part of the 60 Minutes people. We've covered a lot of the actions of the people in charge of 60 Minutes over the last 6 months to a year, and a lot of it has been very self-righteous, very sure of themselves, and willing to accept that maybe something is quote unquote morally true, even if it's not factually true, right? So they're mad at Bari Weiss for saying, okay, well, let's go with the data here. Let's represent the full story instead of just doing a hit piece on the Trump administration. There's also, from a business standpoint, the market is full of hit pieces on the Trump administration. Maybe they could try gaining some credibility by presenting the other side of the argument instead of just another opinion piece.
Well, let me go to this, talking about opinion pieces, and apologies, folks. We've had some glitching out there in the what we're being able to show. Right now, there it goes. Okay, finally, it updated. Out of the Atlantic, this is why this lands in the purview of entertainment, folks, because up until this point, we're talking about the dissidents within a news organization. And that's fine, we can do that. But how does this land in our lane of entertainment? Well, the Atlantic gives us the summary we need. It says Bari Weiss's audience of one. This is by Jonathan Chait. It says Trump's plan to corrupt the media is starting to work. The argument in this article is that Trump just said that the Ellisons, he's not sure if they're his friends anymore. And he said that because the Ellisons are claiming they're going to have an easier time of getting Warner Brothers cleared through the regulatory hurdles if they want to buy WBD. That's their claim to shareholders. Trump said, well, I don't know if they're even my friends, but based on how they're handling me. Days afterwards, Bari Weiss comes out and delays a segment. The media now, what they're trying to do is claim that they're placating the orange man so that they can get Warner Brothers, get back in his good graces. Where they're getting twisted up right now is the fact that we now know, according to Bari Weiss in the leaked internal memo, that she was not, in fact, trying to shelve the thing, but just give it another week or two to make it more unbiased. So I kind of think this might have been, I think this is orchestrated. I think that they intentionally put out a piece that was so biased that they knew that Bari Weiss would have to do something about it. And then as soon as she did something about it, they claim it's something else. And they claim that it's because the Ellisons and Bari Weiss are trying to make the orange man happy with them so they can buy Warner Brothers. I think that, these people, it reminds me of 4 and 5 years ago and some of the traps that were set. I think this is what we're getting again. I think they're back up to their same old tricks. Ron, your thoughts on this idea that Bari Weiss, who now we see the memo, she only wanted to put a slight delay on it to make it right, that now they're claiming she's in with Trump to destroy the media. What is going on here?
First of all, I think it's ridiculous. And you said that it wasn't Bari Weiss herself that leaked the memo, right? It was leaked internally, which is really funny because if you read the memo, it actually plays to her favor, showing that she was doing her job when everybody else there wasn't doing their jobs fairly. Like the
right. And the person putting this out here is Isabella Simonetti. She works for the Wall Street Journal and has gotten a hold of this thing.
Yeah. So which is, I mean, when you look at this, you realize what is wrong with our very, very skewed news organizations. We talk about entertainment. Well, that's kind of what these news organizations have become. Some of them is entertainment for a very particular audience that they want to appeal to. And then they want to coach. It is propaganda that they're putting out rather than news. And, when you have news, you have a look at the story, all of the context of the story, what all of the information, not part of the information. And for years and years and years, the vast majority of news and media organizations have just put out the story with an obvious bias. And it's, it's become something. I mean, there's a reason why the new media has risen. It's because people have realized that they just don't want to be spoon-fed this like infants anymore. Getting the mixed up whatever, world peas, not world peace, but world peas that they've all been that they've all been getting. And we want truth. Bari Weiss is trying to make the CBS News organization probably what would be the best organization. Completely fair, completely balanced, completely with all of the facts and the figures, getting this story out there the way that it should be shown so that people can, what a surprise, make up their own minds. And I wish we would get back to that.
So let's give the devil its due for a minute. Let's play around this idea that maybe the Ellisons did tell Bari Weiss, hey, we got to buy Warner Brothers. So we're going to play nice with the Trump administration. We need you to shut down. We need you to stop all of these. Any segment that's negative about Trump for right now, stop it. Jonas, how do you think that would play out if they went to Bari Weiss, given what we know about this woman, and told her we're shutting down any negative stories about Trump? What's the danger for the Ellisons if they do that?
What's fascinating about Bari Weiss is that she left the New York Times for basically standing on principles, and the left would accuse her of being right-wing for that reason, but it really wasn't a right-wing issue. It was a centrism and fairness issue versus the left wing. So Bari Weiss, again, not a conservative by any stretch, just not in step with the coastal elites that run these organizations. I think that there was a statement from Trump where he said, if these people are my friends, and they're running this kind of stuff against me, then I would hate to see what it looks like when they're enemies. There's two contexts that statement can be read as. It can be read as if he's a mob boss talking about, yeah, you want to be my friend, whatever, you come to me on the day of my daughter's. That was Schwarzenegger and Vito Corleone together. Anyways, I think that Trump was making a joke. Also, this segment, if CBS ran a segment saying that Trump is handling immigration correctly in the United States or whatever it is, I don't think that really rocks the boat that much. I think that there are so many news organizations out there that let's put it this way. Unless the segment was outright praising Donald Trump or completely going after his enemies, those are the only circumstances in which Trump would actually like whatever the segment was. Right now, I think it's a tolerance thing. So Bari Weiss, I think she has a strong enough sense of conviction, and she would love to prove to everyone that she's just doing a fair job instead of kowtowing to people who are so deep in the paint that they don't understand that they're drowning in it.
Well, you talk about drowning. I'll read this, and Lauren, I'm going to give you the final word on it. The Atlantic says it this way. A key goal of Donald Trump's second term has been to use government power to replace important media properties in the hands of loyalists who will bend coverage to the president's will. Yesterday, the Trump-approved management at CBS duly held back a 60 Minutes report about the administration's treatment of migrant detainees. Although many of Trump's goals to reindustrialize the economy and prosecute his enemies have floundered, his plan to corrupt the media is starting to work. Lauren, because Bari Weiss wanted to give it another week or two to call the government officials and actually give them a chance to say, here's why we're doing this. Because she actually wanted journalism. They're losing their minds, Lauren.
And their viewers. I'm just tired of this nonsense. It's the petulance, the ridiculousness on display is why people don't trust the media anymore. It's why YouTube has become the king of media, and why that's where people are going to get their news. They don't feel that they can trust corporate-controlled media, and there's a reason for that. One of the most shocking things that you can see, if you're not already aware of it, is if you go and you look at those news broadcasts where they're showing channels in multiple different places reading from the exact same script, the exact thing that has been given to them by their corporate masters. If you're not aware of that, that's a scary thing, and it's eye-opening, and it makes you realize that these personalities that you watch, they're not the friendly folks that are just bringing to you what their local correspondents dug up the way that you might think. They're just people reading a script that's been provided to them to provide a particular viewpoint that their paymasters approve.
That's
and
right.
Once you see that, it becomes really difficult to unsee it.
They're not looking at you when they're reading the news.
No.
They're not looking at the camera. They're looking at a teleprompter that says exactly what they should say. And when it was an anchor man, it was funny. But today, when they're telling you, what the latest propaganda might be, well, that's a problem. Latest propaganda, folks. Bari Weiss is part of the Trump administration, and she's trying to shut down the news media and give it over to the orange man. When in fact, she just said, Let's give it a week and let's actually ask these people we're reporting on to give us a comment. That seems fair to us. Helping Hollywood produce a product that you want to consume, that's what we do each and every day, folks. And this time, it's time to, well, say goodbye. We know, but don't cry. No, for we will have more videos on the way. We love to bring those videos and that information. And by the way, if you'd like even more, consider going to the Patreon page. It's www.patreon.com/WDW Pro. It's where we put out stuff exclusively there that we simply can't put out in other places for whatever reason, be it because it's too spicy or because, well, perhaps we're working to corroborate it. But you can find out things early and first over there. Folks, we surely have had a great time spending time with you. Consider clicking that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell, and drop a comment right on down below. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.